Building strong triceps is one of the secrets to achieving toned and defined arms while improving your upper body strength and increasing your stability across a whole load of different exercises. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to train your triceps to get the most optimal growth, and at the end of the video, I'll give you all of my favorite tricep exercises so you can steal them, and I'll show you how to structure them into your own workout routine. First, because there's no gatekeeping here, I'm going to be sharing my top tips to help you target each area of your tricep for balanced growth. This video is actually part of our muscle growth series, and we've been going through all of the different muscle groups and finding out how to train them most optimally to get the best results. This is honestly the series that I wish I had when I started my fitness journey, so please make the most of it. Before we jump into some common mistakes that will definitely be holding back your tricep growth, first we need to understand how the triceps actually work. So it's time for a tiny bit of anatomy. You've probably guessed from the name, but the triceps are made up of three different heads. The lateral head is the outermost part of the triceps and creates that horseshoe shape near the top of your arm. It works to extend the elbow, especially during power-focused movements. The long head runs along the inner part of the back of your arm and works to extend the elbow as well, but it also assists in shoulder extension and stabilizes the shoulder joint. The medial head is the deepest part of the triceps and runs down the middle under the long and lateral heads, adding shape to the arm as a whole. It works to extend the elbow, especially during low force or endurance activities. So if we want to build balanced and well-rounded triceps, we need to make sure that we're including exercises that target the medial head, the lateral head, and the long head of the triceps. And that actually leads us on to three common mistakes that you need to avoid, otherwise you're not going to be building balanced triceps. Mistake number one is neglecting the tricep long head. The long head makes up most of the mass of our triceps, so it's important that we choose exercises that are going to target it effectively if we want to build balanced arms. Some people will argue that as long as you have pressing movements as part of your routine, then you don't actually need isolation exercises in order to grow your triceps. And there have actually been multiple scientific studies that agree that adding in isolation exercises along with your pressing movements doesn't significantly increase the amount of total tricep growth. However, this 2020 study didn't just measure the total tricep growth, it measured each of the different heads individually. And what they found was that participants that just did bench press saw significant growth in their tricep lateral and medial head, but not much growth at all in their tricep long head. On the other hand, the group that did bench press and lying overhead tricep extension saw significant growth in all three of the tricep heads. This is because unlike the lateral and medial heads of the tricep that just cross over the elbow joint, the long head of the tricep crosses the elbow joint and crosses the shoulder joint. So in movements like bench press, where you're mainly focused on extending the elbow, there's not much work going on with your shoulders at all. So if you're only doing pressing movements, then it's very likely that you're not going to be targeting the long head of your tricep enough to see balanced growth. In our video on how to grow your back, we looked at this study that emphasized the importance of training a muscle in the stretch position if we're training for hypertrophy or muscle growth. The same thing applies when we're training your triceps, and the long head of the tricep is in its most stretched position when we're doing movements with our arms extended overhead. So exercises like overhead tricep extensions or dumbbell skull crushers. You can grow your triceps by just doing pressing movements, but it's important that we also include exercises that are going to target the long head if we want to see balanced growth. Mistake number two is flaring your elbows too much. When your elbows flare outwards, your shoulders start to become more involved because the line of force shifts outwards as well. This engages other stabilizing muscles like your delts and your chest and takes some of the load off of your triceps. When you keep your elbows tucked closer into your torso, this aligns your triceps better with the resistance curve. So this can help keep the focus of the movement on elbow extension, which is the triceps' main function, rather than the focus shifting onto other muscle groups like your shoulders or your chest. Also, when you keep your elbows tucked in, the distance between your elbow joint and the line of force is more consistent, so allows the triceps to generate more force. Mistake number three is using too much weight. Yes, it is important to use heavy weight so that the exercise you're doing is actually challenging and you're actually creating the stimulus that your body needs to be able to build new muscle tissue. But when you reach the point where you're lifting so heavy that your form starts to deteriorate, that's not a good sign. When you're lifting with bad form, it reduces the effectiveness of the exercise and significantly increases your chance of getting injured. Choose a weight that's challenging for you, but you can still lift with proper form and use controlled movements to get the most out of it. Okay, so now that you know to avoid those three mistakes, I've got three top tips that are going to help you optimize your tricep growth. Tip number one, mix heavy and high rep work. The triceps, like most muscle groups, are made up of a mixture of fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers, and this means that we need to use a variety of of different rep ranges in order to grow them most optimally. Across multiple studies, the triceps appear to lean more towards being fast twitch fiber dominant. So although we don't want to go too heavy to the point where we're sacrificing form, focusing on low rep heavy training is going to be really important for increasing the size and the strength of our triceps. For the best results, we can combine heavier compound lifts like close grip bench press with lighter isolation movements like tricep pushdowns for more reps. We'll also be using progressive overload whether we're doing heavy low rep training or lighter and higher rep training, but we've already covered that in a few of the videos in this series now, so you already know. I'll show you exactly how we're going to structure the sets and reps of these exercises in a little bit. Tip 2 is focus on using a full range of motion. Remember how we said that working in the stretch was super important for muscle growth? Well, the same thing goes with your triceps, and especially the long head of the triceps. To make sure you're getting the most tricep activation possible, I want you to try slowing down your reps and really feel that stretch. Like in the most stretched position of each exercise, just take a second to really think about feeling the stretch, because that's going to help you get the mind to muscle connection in gear. And also, when you slow down the stretch portion of the movement, it's going to make the whole exercise a lot harder. Tip 3 is work in the Goldilocks zone of tricep training. You don't want to train your triceps too little because they won't grow. You don't want to train them too much because they won't grow. Essentially, you need to train your triceps frequently enough and with enough volume to actually create the stimulus for growth, but not too much so that you can't recover from it. For most people, training triceps just 1 or 2 times a week is plenty to see the growth that you're looking for. In general, doing as little as 4 sets of tricep training per week is enough to maintain your triceps. If we want to grow our triceps, then you can see growth from between 6 to 10 sets per week, but I would never go more than 20 because that's when we start to move into the non-recoverable zone. It will vary from person to person and your specific goals and how well your triceps are already developed, but I personally like to aim for about 6 sets of triceps per week. I also just want to note that's just how I train right now. I might in future add in more sets of triceps, I might in future take away sets of triceps. It really depends on the individual and your current goal. Okay, so now for my favorite part, the ultimate tricep workout. Assuming you already have some pressing movements in your routine, like bench press or incline dumbbell bench or stuff like that, you can add 1 or 2 of these movements to your routine to supplement your pressing movements to improve your tricep growth. Personally, I like to slot these exercises into my upper body days twice a week. When we're starting our workouts, we usually want to begin with our compound exercises. So in this case, for our upper body days, that would usually be your bench press, your incline dumbbell bench, or if you're doing a whole upper body day, then you might have some compound exercises in there for back as well. We're starting with compound lifts because at the start of your workouts, you're going to have the most energy. So you're going to be able to lift heavier and you'll get more out of those movements. So once you've done all of your compound lifts, then we're going to add in these tricep exercises. Another benefit of leaving your tricep exercises till a bit later in your workout is because your elbows will already be warmed up. And that's super important because in pretty much all of the tricep exercises that we're going to do, your elbows play a big role because the main function of the triceps is to extend the elbow. So first we're going to choose a movement to emphasize the long head of the tricep. So our arms are going to be extended overhead. You can choose anything from overhead cable tricep extension, overhead dumbbell tricep extension, or dumbbell or easy bar skull crushers. For overhead cable tricep extensions, I prefer to use the bar because it's just a bit more stable than the rope attachment. You want to set the cable up at about waist height and get into position by grabbing the bar and raising your arms overhead. Try to keep your elbows in a fairly fixed position throughout the movement and don't lock them out when you're at the top. For our second tricep exercise, we're going to focus more on elbow extension, so we're going to choose a pushdown variation. You can choose to do your pushdowns using the cable attachment, a bar attachment, a rope attachment, really whichever cable attachment you find is most comfortable for you, because that means you're most likely going to get more out of it. To be completely honest, I actually like to switch up the cable attachment I use every now and then, because the different ones will target your triceps in a slightly different way. It's not going to be much of a difference, but I just like to switch it up to keep it interesting. The way you're going to fit these into your 2 upper body sessions is for the first session, you're going to do 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of overhead tricep extensions, and then 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps of tricep pushdowns. Then in your second upper body session, you're going to do 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of tricep pushdowns, followed by 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps of overhead tricep extensions. This way, we're going to be targeting both the fast twitch and the slow twitch muscle fibers, so you're going to be able to build more balanced triceps. So add these exercises into your your routine, follow the tips, and let me know in the comments how it's working for you, because I honestly love hearing about your guys' progress and I respond to all my comments. Since you're a real one for making this far in the video, I know your triceps are gonna thank you. But I'd also appreciate it if you subscribed, and make sure to let me know which muscle group you want to see next in the muscle growth series. But for now, you can catch up on the whole series here next. See you there!